Welcome to today's episode of Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin. It's my belief that one of the noblest callings that we can have is to serve others over self. Nowhere is that more apparent than those that serve the United States in uniform. I have talked with many of those that have served over the years and find that many times when men and women leave the service, they don't know all the benefits that they are entitled to as service members. They also struggle with the adjustment back to civilian life. One of the ways that we, as a county, can help our veterans know the benefits they're entitled to and how to access them is to have a Veterans Service Office. Today, I'm pleased to have the director of that office, Joe Wasson, join me. For the next hour, we'll talk about what he and his team do and how they serve every day some of the over 20,000 veterans that call Allen County home. Joe, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Commissioner.
So one of the questions that I always have a new guest answer is to tell us their story. And this is a little bit about you and how you got to where you're at today. So can you share some of your story with us?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. My story is pretty simple. I think I was standing in the kitchen and I said, I think I'm going to join the Army. And then about
And that happens all the time,
That
right?
happens all the time. I tried the school and just didn't really work out for me at that time. And my father was in the military. My grandfather was in the military. And so it just seemed like it was the right calling. I just knew it was me. I love to be able to serve. So I served 4 years on active duty Army and was able to come home. And after I came back home, then I tried school again, and it worked out this time. So I was able to utilize some of my benefits, and we call Fort Wayne home. My wife and 2 children. And then, at one day I was going to the recorder's office in Allen County to record my DD-214, my discharge paperwork. And they said, you need to go to the Veteran Service Office first. And so I walked over there and I met George Jarbo, who is the former service officer. And he said, why don't you sit down? Let's have a talk. Before I knew it, I was filing a claim. 3 years later, I was in the position. And so George called me and said, I think this is the right position for you. And so I haven't really looked back. And that's kind of the journey where I didn't know about my office, and now I get to be in it and kind of serve. So that's kind of the role is you learn. Now I get to kind of help other people kind of learn about it too.
So tell us a little more about the Veterans Service Office. How's it set up, and what are you designed to do? What is your mission?
The Allen County Veterans Service Office is there for service members and their families. Our main goal is to help service members file claims and their families to file claims that they may be entitled to benefits through the federal government, state, and local.
And we're going to talk about some of those in detail as we go on in the program.
Absolutely. But our main goal is we're a resource. I sometimes think of us as a switchboard. We may get a call and ask, where can I turn in a flag that has been tethered? Or where can I learn about a veterans court, or where can I learn about a service dog? And so we may wear a lot of hats, and we just want to kind of put those individuals in the right position. And oftentimes they may kind of come in for an appointment where we can sit down and teach them about some of the benefits they're entitled to.
So speaking of those benefits, when you go on to the Allen County website and there's a link for the Veterans Service Office, there are what I counted as 17 different things. I mean, this is not all the things that you do, but it lists the different things that if a veteran or a family member had a question that they can come to you for. So I want to go through some of these in some detail, and you can give as much or as little as you want to kind of tell the audience the breadth and depth of what you and your team do. So the first thing on the list is service-connected disability compensation.
This is where a service member is able to receive some benefits. If a veteran can share with the federal government that they were injured while on active duty, and we can prove that that injury is still chronic today, this is where I can help a veteran file a claim. And if that veteran and that injury is still chronic today, there may be a service connection. And that service-connected disability is what's going to be kind of the linchpin to allow the veteran to receive more benefits. And so service connection is if I can identify that my right knee condition is from me falling on a rock in basic training, and I can prove it to the VA, that's considered a service-connected disability.
Okay. And I want to remind the audience that these are benefits that are given by the federal government that are a benefit of being in the service. Mm-hmm. And these are ones that money is there.
Correct.
And so we are, helping the veteran who resides here access the benefits that they are entitled to.
That's correct. We are the office that I'm able to be a part of is we want to be the voice for our service members. We want to ensure that we're telling the federal government their story. And by having this interview and packaging their claim appropriately, we're able to create that conversation with the VA and with the federal government so they can receive those federal benefits that they're entitled to.
Well, because I know anyone who's listening to this program today will know that anytime you try to interact with the government, local, mm-hmm. state, or federal, it can be incredibly confusing, mm-hmm. right? There's lots of legal verbiage, lots of documents, and it can be overwhelming. And so your team is really there to cut through that red tape and help walk that service member or their family kind of through the process to make it as easy as possible for them to access those benefits that they're entitled to.
We cut red tape. We are trying to ensure that this family has a seamless transition with their claim work, and we will be that point person at the beginning of their claim, during their claim, at the end of the claim. And so we're also part of that aftercare portion of it.
So one of the other things that's on here is military discharges, awards, and decorations. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about what your team does on those things.
We are able to assist family members if their loved one has lost their records or lost their awards. We can assist them in filing and retrieving those. And so we kind of assist them to go through the National Personal Records Center to have all their awards resent to them. They get one shot. They can have their awards resent. Military discharge. We can assist veterans and family members requesting their discharge from the National Personal Records Center. And that's a great benefit because sometimes they need to have that discharge so they can come to my office and file. Right. And in the same breath, we can then record that at the recorder's office and have that on permanent status. We also can provide the forms for a service member to upgrade their discharge. And there's a little bit of a process with that, but we can assist and kind of point them in the right direction.
I know, kind of a personal thing, we didn't use Allen County, but myself, a grandma alive who just had her 96th birthday last week. And my grandfather died a few years ago, who was a Korea War veteran. And so when my grandma moved into assisted living several years ago, one of the things is there is a veteran's benefit that is, if you are a veteran or a surviving spouse of a veteran, that they help provide so much per month for the assisted living. But part of it is grandma had to have grandpa's discharge papers to do that. Well, obviously, that was 50 years ago. So after that's over, they lost the papers. Mm-hmm. So we were able to use, a local benefit where they live mm-hmm. in order to do that. So it's a good example of what you talk about, where discharge papers are important to get a benefit that you're entitled to.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought up that's non-service connected pension. So non-service connected pension is a benefit for veterans and surviving spouses that may meet that criteria, and that's a needs-based benefit. And that's another thing that we're able to help out with those surviving spouses in the family. That's a big benefit we help with them.
That is, because that's one that anyone who's listening that's been through that journey, assisted living mm-hmm. is expensive, and this is not nursing care. This is just that piece, and that is the extra piece that allows her to use, to allow her to live with dignity,
yes,
in those final days, which I know would be important to my grandpa in that as well.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I want to spend some time on today, and I know that your team is spending a ton of time on right now, is property tax abatements. So walk us through what's changed in Indiana law and what your team is spending a lot of time right now with veterans on.
This is a great benefit for us service members in the state of Indiana. The law has changed that if you are 100% service connected, then you may be eligible for 100% property. No more property tax would be on your homestead. And service members that are 10 to 90%, they have increased the dollar amount. So we've kind of gone from credits to deductions, and we're able to provide that benefit to the service members and their families. And if you're a surviving spouse, you may also be eligible for that. So a lot of our time, what we're doing in our office is refiling for veterans that are 100% or their surviving spouses. And so those veterans will need to report down to our office before the end of the year. And if they can bring in their award letter and their DD 214, my office can complete that the document, and we'll take that over to the auditor's office for completion. And those service members that are rated 10 to 90%, they do not need to report if they had that on their homestead last year. And so we just ask them if any questions, they can call our office and we can kind of go through that.
So this is one that I know you've told me you've had a lot of folks in that just automatically think they get it. And that isn't always the case. Correct. And so it's important that, as you just said, Joe, if you are a veteran that falls into this category, that you check with your office to make sure that they fit that category, because this is a significant benefit.
Correct.
We've talked a lot here about property taxes and the impact that has on a lot of our older folks, especially. And this is one the state legislature has done as an honoring of our veterans. And so this is one we would highly encourage you, if you fall in that category, you have a loved one that falls in that category, reach out to Joe's team to make sure, number one, do you qualify for this benefit? And two, to make sure that he and his team walk you through this to make sure that you get the benefit that you're entitled to.
And that's spot on. And even if you are not and receive this benefit and you're not service connected, this is the benefit that we get to talk about after you become the service connection. So we encourage you to maybe this is the time to call a service office. It could be our office or someone close by just to learn about your benefits and file a claim. And then there could be some benefits on the other end.
Okay. With that, we will take our first commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll go through some of these other lists of some of the other things that your team does. You're listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin. My guest today is Joe Wasson, the Veteran Service Officer for Allen County. Joe, before the break, we were talking about some of the things that your team work with veterans and their families on. One of the other things that are on here is VA medical care. I mean, we are blessed in our region to have a VA center in Fort Wayne. So walk us through the type of things that your team would help a veteran or their family with when it comes to the VA.
Like you said, we're very lucky to have the VA hospital here in our community, and that is probably the number one benefit for a service member is to utilize the VA healthcare system. With the 10% service connection, you are able to utilize the VA for anything and everything besides dental. And so I encourage veterans, if you are service connected, to enroll in the VA so you can utilize some of those benefits. The VA is there for us. That's my family doctor. I get to go out there once or twice a year and meet with them. I socialize with veterans that are in the lobby. I feel at home every time I walk into a VA. I'm a homer when it comes to this, but I'm so proud of our VA and how they take care of our veterans. And so it's there for us. How I look at it is the more veterans that utilize our Fort Wayne VA, the director is going to be able to ask for more dollars for more beds. And so when we see a service member thinking that they may not be entitled, or they don't feel that they should go to the VA, I want them to know that we need them to be at the VA. The more veterans that we have going to the VA, it's going to help out those other service members. And so the VA medical care is amazing, but they don't know until we step in the door. And so that's where we need to be if we can. So I think it's a great opportunity for us.
Okay. We talked a little bit earlier about, in my personal example of benefits for those that are in assisted living, but there are a number of other survivor benefits that you and your team walk through with a loved one. If they've got a veteran who has passed away, what are available? So what are some of the things that you and your team work with on those?
Just this morning, we had a surviving spouse walk into our office to share with us that she lost her loved one. Our office was able to retrieve the necessary information of the death certificate and the marriage certificate and the DD 214, and we're able to support this surviving spouse and to file for DIC. DIC is Dependency Indemnity Compensation, and this is a benefit that's going to provide her monetary and some a cost share insurance program for the rest of her life. So this is one of my. I don't like doing these claims, but I see the value in it because I don't want to. I'd hate to see somebody on their worst day, but if we're able to help a surviving spouse out, it's one of the better things that we do because that veteran has worked hard and served honorably, and knowing that his surviving spouse is taken care of, that's a great feeling. So that's a good thing that we get to do in our office with survivors benefits. And then we also can kind of go into the realm of burial benefits and sharing with them what that can look like if it's the Marion National Cemetery, if it's the Indiana Veterans Home over in Lafayette, or if it's a proprietary cemetery, we can kind of walk through those steps of how their veteran benefits will assist them.
And I think that's an important one, because you have a link just on burial benefits. And that is one that I know from walking through that journey. One grandfather was in Korea, one grandfather was in World War II. Both have passed at this point. But that was one that, and it's not a ton of money, but it is, if you have a burial, there are federal government benefits that are available to help offset that. Because any one of our listeners today that's been through that journey of a funeral knows that it is crazy expensive. Mm-hmm. And regardless of whether it's cremation or body burial, I mean, it could be tens of thousands of dollars. And so a lot of times people haven't saved up for that.
Right.
And so to your point, you're on your worst day when that happens, especially if someone passes suddenly. And then you're faced with these massive bills that you never planned to happen. So walk us through some of the things that might be in there. If someone came to you and said, I want to bury my loved one, but I don't have the money to do it, what's available to help them with that?
First, let's start with Allen County, and let's talk about how Allen County is able to provide $500 to families for their burial expenses when it comes to a veteran burial. I mean, I think that's amazing. I think a couple of years ago, we were around $100, and now we're at $500 to be able to support that family. Right there, that's going to be a benefit for them. If the service member was receiving dollars at the time of his passing, we can assist with filing for dollars to come back to be reimbursed for some of those. A DIC recipient, she would receive a larger amount of dollars to help pay for that funeral. But we also we'll coordinate with the funeral home. I'll talk to funeral homes and help them coordinate to get the discharge paperworks for the family so they can have them at the time of their kind of those hard conversations. We're also coordinating with honor guards of our local American Legions and allowing them to take part in some of these services. Again, it's one of those hats that we wear. We may hear some strange requests, and we will like to support that request in any way we can.
Okay. So switching to something that's a little different, one of the other benefits that your team talks about is motor vehicle license plates.
Yeah. If you drive around town and you see a veteran license plate with the Indiana indicator, that service member paid $15 for that license plate, and it went right back into the Military Family Relief Fund. It is a state benefit, and those service members are helping out other service members. The Military Family Relief Fund is a grant program for service members that are in need. But back to the license plates, it's great to kind of have your pride and show your branch of service. We also have the authority to supply Hoosier disabled license plates. So if a service member is service connected for a condition and that is causing them pain to walk to and from the building, our office can also provide them the document that goes to the BMV. So license plates are a great way to show who you are, but also a benefit for service members that are in need of that a little bit closer proximity to the door.
So this is one that, so for example, I want to get a specialty license plate. I just can't go to the license branch and say, give me this plate. So you help through that process so that when they do request a plate, that it just makes it go a little more smoothly.
Yeah, that's correct. And we're going to encourage them. You need to bring your discharge paperwork with your honorable discharge to the BMV. And then for the handicap placard and the disabled Hoosier license plate, those individuals will be coming to our office with their rating decision to show us that the condition. And then my office can give a raised seal on the form.
Okay. So we've talked about 7 of what I have out here is 17 different things that you and your team walk through. And those are kind of normal, air quote, type of things. There's lots of other things that may pop up as a veteran talks to you about it. But I would really encourage listeners to go onto the website, look at these. They're all hyperlinked. And so when you click on one of these, it will tell you a little more about that. But really do some research and see the breadth of what Joe and his team do. They cover a lot of things with that. So, Joe, one of the things that, we're talking about Allen County specifically. I'm an Allen County commissioner, so that's my focus. However, does every county in Indiana have an office like yours?
They do. It is a state statute. Every county in the state of Indiana is to have a accredited service officer that is to be paid 1,000 hours per year.
Okay. So that's one that the state mandates it's there, but it's up to the county to decide, okay, what kind of funding are we willing to put towards that? Obviously your team is here. We've talked about that we have 20,000 plus veterans that live, active and retired, that live in Allen County. Do you just serve those folks that are in Allen County? So maybe I live in another contiguous county to Allen and I come in. Will you talk to me?
Absolutely. My office is a yes office. We're not turning anybody away. As long as my service members and family members have patience, I have patience for them, and we will always serve. Just this morning, I had a gentleman come in, and he's a snowbird, and he spends his time in Texas in the winter, but he comes here in Indiana, and I still get to service him when he's in Texas. My first line supervisor ever, he's in Virginia, and I've been able to help him out. And so it is, we want to help anybody and everybody. And as long as they have the patience, again, I'm here for them. So we'll help anybody. The VA here in Fort Wayne brings in a lot of service members from outside of our county. And so we may kind of get some trickle from the VA, from somebody coming from a DeKalb or somebody coming from Wells. We're here for them, and we'll say yes.
Well, and we've also, to that end, made a conscious decision as a county to be a veteran attractive community. So there are a number of things the Board of Commissioners done working with Joe and others on our team to make sure that, if someone is looking to retire, they just get out of the service, or, maybe they're in that, retiring from a career. How can we make Allen County, their home? And so one of the things that's important to me is making sure that we do provide you and your team with the resources they need to provide that service to our veterans, that we do have a vibrant, thriving VA, that we do have a number of these services that make that service member feel like they've got the services that they need to have a thriving, retirement. So with that, we will take our next commercial break. And when we get into that, we have a number of other topics here that we'll cover. You're listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and our guest today is Joe Wasson, the Veteran Service Officer for Allen County. One of the things we talked in our last segment about the number of services that your team provides. One of the things that I think would be important for our listeners is what our website is. And so it's one that there are other Allen counties in the United States, not just in Indiana. So if you go on to the allencounty.in.gov website, you will see a number of different links that you can do. And if you go on to that and link on departments, and then in the department's resident services, you will see a list of the services that we provide to our residents and veteran services. So when you click on that is where you'll have all the links to the things we've been talking about. So again, allencounty.in.gov, go into departments, resident services, and then veteran services. So with that, one of the things we've talked about, Joe, is over 20,000 veterans live in Allen County. How do we know that?
There is a program through Purdue Extension, and they have a familyness research center, and they're able to identify that through census, and that's where we get our numbers every couple of years. The last number that we had was right around 20,000 service members in our community.
How do we know, how do we get the word out to them about the services you and your team provide?
This could be the largest issue that I come across, sir. It is, I joke about there's not a big enough mountain for me to be on to talk about veterans benefits. And the biggest issue that I see is service members just not knowing about their benefits. And when I see a service member that had served honorably 2 tours in Vietnam and he was not aware that he could file a claim for X, Y, and Z, that is where it gets me going. It gets me thinking, how do I tell more? Where are more veterans opening their ears to hear about this? Is the veteran in the right place in their life to hear about this? And so sometimes it takes big life changes for a service member to say, what else can I do? How can I help? And that's when they start to learn about it. When I first started this job, I said before, I'm old and gray. I'm getting some grays in there, but I want all my veterans to know about their benefits. And I'm trying my best to get on that mountain. It looks like I'm on one right here. So,
that's right.
yes.
So, yeah. Well, one of the reasons we started this program is to help educate the public on different topics. Right now, so many things we hear are in sound bites, right? You see someone does a Facebook post, or I'll see a snippet on the news or something, but really to have a format where you can, for an hour, really talk about a topic and get deep into that. And what I love about the podcast format is it's on demand. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not listening to it live on WOWO at noon on Saturday, I can pull it up anytime. And, you can use other platforms. Mm-hmm. And so it's a great way to, anytime you want to pull that up. And I thought it was important to have you on because, really the things we're talking about. How do this may be one that, a listener listens to that and they're like, well, maybe it's not applicable to them, but you know what, my neighbor, it could be. Mm-hmm. And so I can send that to the neighbor, to listen to. So that is one of the things you and I have talked a lot about are what are things I can do as commissioner to help, promote what you and your team do in order that, we have 403,000 people mm-hmm. that call Allen County home. And my goal always is that we provide the thriving, vibrant community for each of them. And so, especially for these 20,000 folks, making sure we have that for them.
The exit interview, when I speak with a service member, they have a job to do. Their job is to go and find a service member in their life and ask them how they're doing, check in with them. And if they don't know about their benefits, I'm encouraging them to say, go call a service officer. And so as the selfless service that us service members have been a part of, our job continues. And that's kind of where I lean on my veterans in my community. You know a veteran, ask them how they're doing. If they don't know about their benefits, it's okay to tell them that they're wrong. We can talk shop to Joe's. But it's just encourage them to call somebody to learn more about those.
So in talking with veterans, and you talk with a lot of them, what is the biggest issue that you come across?
I think I have to go back to not fully understanding all the benefits they're entitled to. And we may have a service member come in and they're just not aware. And how can we share with you? And what's a great thing is that we may talk to them for 10 minutes and they may say, this is the most I have ever heard anybody tell me about benefits in my whole entire life since I get out of the service. And so when I hear those things, that just tells me I need to do more. We need to get out there more.
Do you find that certain veterans may feel a sense of, I don't deserve this, or, someone else needs it instead of me?
Yes, sir.
So how do we overcome that?
Every Vietnam veteran that I say, welcome home. That's probably the first thing that I do. Any service member that was in the Reserve or National Guard, and letting them know that you put on that uniform. You're a veteran just like I am. So it's pushing up our service members when you have the chance, and just letting them know that they're not alone and we're there for them. So veterans helping veterans, that's the most success that I've seen.
Okay. So I always ask this of a lot of our guests, what's your favorite part of the job?
I haven't worked a day yet, Commissioner, to be honest with you. I get to talk to service members. I get to help them out, and I get to hear about their good days and their bad days, and I get to be a resource. And so when they leave my office, I know that they came in where they're leaving with a lot more than they had. That's my favorite part about it, is just knowing that our office made an impact.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of puffery, and I don't give praise lightly. I will say one of the things in the 18 months that I've been commissioner, we are blessed to have an amazing team in Allen County. And, there are many, many people that I can look at throughout our team in a variety. There's 30 departments that are in Allen County. 11 report up through the Board of Commissioners. You do a great job, Joe.
Thank you.
And, we are blessed to have, you on the team and your team, people that truly care passionately about our veterans and are good at what they do. And, I always tell people, don't touch my team. So, so I'm going to, encourage people, don't touch Joe. I want to keep you very happy and content. So
you are stuck with me, sir.
That's good. I'm glad of that. So with the favorite part of the job, what's the least favorite? The politicians you deal with, is that it?
Oh, no. Those, veteran benefits and veteran league or those issues are always good wins. So not there. I think the least favorite part about this is not being able to help them in a timely manner. Where if they got to me a little bit after they knew that they had this benefit and I just wasn't able to see them, or if they got bad information from somewhere else and they thought that was the right information and they came to my office and they had that, that's where knowing that they maybe didn't get that right information, that's difficult to hear. So going back to, we got to get that word out.
So where do you normally hear if someone gets bad information? How have they normally gotten that bad information?
Word of mouth, possibly, maybe from the internet. We encourage service members to go to va.gov. That's where I get my information, or it trickles down from the federal government. So having that at the end of the website is very helpful for us to navigate good information.
Yeah, it's one that obviously we are in an AI age where, AI is a bigger thing everywhere. However, AI is only as good as the information you put into it. The web is only as good as the search that you do. So we need to encourage people to be very careful, be as wise as a serpent, when you're going through some of these things, that, the information that you're getting is from a trusted resource. Because I guarantee you we could probably do an internet search right now and find all kinds of answers to certain questions. And so we would encourage listeners that if you do have a question on a topic dealing with veterans benefits or something, and, unless there's clear-cut answers that you see there, use your office as a resource to kind of help cut through a lot of those different voices that are out there that may be saying contrary things.
I couldn't agree more. It is, when in doubt, ask the question, and we want to be that resource for you.
So with that, we will take our final commercial break. You are listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and my guest today is Joe Wasson, the Veteran Service Officer for Allen County. Joe, we've covered a lot of things over these last 3 segments. And, this next question is a dangerous question for me to ask, as I am your boss. But what is your biggest need?
It's a great question, Commissioner. If we had more service officers to be able to provide more service to our community members, I think that would be the biggest win. If our service officers would be able to, if we had more of us, we could find ourselves in different areas of our county, that we could have better satellite opportunities and meet our veterans and our community members out there. With our calendar out, I think having more manpower would be a great win. I know there's challenges with that, and I think when I came into this role, it was just me, and this position has grown, and so
but not grown much. How big is your team, Joe?
There is myself. I have an assistant service officer and an administrative assistant. So at the beginning, it was just me and my administrative assistant.
There are 3 to serve a population of 20,000 veterans.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is one that, and, I've set this question up, obviously, because you and I have talked about this, and this is one that I am committed to investing in. And, this is not using new money. It is how do we, restructure government most appropriately to put the focus on those things that are most impactful to our citizens. And so this is one that, in full transparency, I have told you on a couple occasions, you need to tell me what you need. And then my job is to work with council to make sure we get it.
Yes, sir.
Because one of the things you and I have talked about when you talk about getting out to veterans, right now they need to really come to you, because there are only really 3 of you, 2 that are our service officers working directly with our veterans. It's one that your office hours are constant, and so one of the things I would love to see is where we would go out to New Haven and Woodburn and, all the areas in between throughout Allen County. To do that, though, I've got to expand your reach, so that we can hit those 20,000 veterans we talked about. And so that is one of the things that, I'll say it on WOWO on this program that, I've told you in private that, I'm absolutely committed to giving you the tools you need to do this work, because it is critical. It is the best of what we do as local government.
Well, I thank you for those kind words. And I think with an expanded team, we're going to continue to serve these service members and by them continue to call Allen County home. They're going to be appreciated. They're going to be heard. So I look forward to that.
But you're not an island. There are a number of other veterans groups in Allen County that you work with. What are some of the groups you work with and some of the things you work on?
So we have the big 4. We're always going to be working with the American Legion and the VFW, the DAV. Some of these local partners could be some of those local VFWs that I could be turning in our tethered flags to. We may be supporting them on speaking engagements. We've been out to a couple American American Legions and met with the Legion Riders and talked about some of our benefits to them. So in some other close local agencies, the Northeast India-based Community Council, we've worked with the Action Over Silence, and even there's the FOB is a new location that we have in our community. We also have FW22. There's a lot of these smaller organizations that we've worked with in the past and continue to send our service members to them because they also have benefits and too. So it's great to have a team. It takes a village, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned FW22, and I know I've got to know Jared pretty well over the last couple of years, and just an absolute has a passion for veterans that are going through mental illness. That a lot of times PTSD and other things are a real thing. I've told you on the drive over today. My daughter is a neuropsychologist, and she's doing her residency right now. And for the next year, she'll be at the VA down in Biloxi, Mississippi, working with veterans that have PTSD and through those things. So it's a real thing that's out there. And a lot of times our veterans kind of suffer alone on that. So I know, talking to Jared, that he's just absolutely committed to, and the FW22 piece is that every day 22 veterans commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And so how do we stop that, here? So, I'm so glad that, I know, and I've talked to these guys, and I know how much you partner with them, but it's really a network that is together to really work with these folks.
It is. There's new groups coming together where there's some roundtables of veterans that from different walks of life that are coming together to bring their talents together. If it's talking about financial, we have service members with maybe 20 years, 30 years of active duty service. They're professionals getting out of the service. How can we help them? So having these roundtables coming up of veteran groups just to learn how we can support those service members, calling Allen County home once again. That's important for that transition.
Right. So if we have a listener that's listening to this and says, I want to help, what can I do? What is the best way for them to help?
Call that veteran in your life and ask them how they're doing. That's it. Just call them. In my calendar, every 22nd of the month, I'm going to call a veteran in my life. And so I'm just going to check in. So if you want to do something today, check in with the veteran, seeing how they're doing. Just check in, and that's it. If they don't know about their benefits, encourage them to call. Because that's the Veterans Benefit Administration is waiting for us veterans to knock on their door and file a claim. And so that's what I would encourage. Find a veteran, ask them how they're doing.
I think that's powerful what you just said, because I think most people would expect the answer to be, well, call this website, and you can volunteer here, you can volunteer there. What I think a lot of times we forget in this age where everything is so focused on screens, right? I mean, I go to restaurants and I see, mom and dad and all the kids and all that, they're all on their phones scrolling. And instead of, I believe, and I'll get a little spiritual for a second, that God has created us to do community together. And that, we've lost a lot of that sense of community as we've had, houses that are built where we just kind of have that all contained. It used to be that they had the front porch, and you would have, community, and you would have all these things you do, service organizations. We see, you mentioned the VFW, American Legion. I know when I was a kid, both grandpas were big in that. And, they did all kinds of activities, and my grandmas were part of the ladies auxiliary, and you see that generation as they're dying off. You see those organizations really struggling because there is a lack of that community. So I think it's powerful what you said is that, if you want to help, the best thing is, how do you befriend a veteran? How do you just love on people and let them know they're not alone? I think that's powerful. Thanks for saying that, Joe. So you've been doing this for a while now. And so as you've spent some years in this role, what are the things that you've seen kind of change over time?
I think workloads has increased, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's over time, and more people will come to our office and said, I heard I need to call you guys. And I think that's been a good thing of having that increase. The awareness of our service members, of kind of knowing their benefits, that's changed. And I think probably one of the biggest things in our role is being able to share more about those benefits, because in 2010, 21, there was the PACT Act that was established to talk about presumptive conditions to service members that were exposed to burn pits, and also expanded for Agent Orange. That was a really big change in our role. So now we are really talking about those presumptive conditions to our service members and alerting them of that. That's probably been the biggest of those exposures that we had, and kind of making sure those veterans know that the National Guard ones that were, hey, I did 4 years of National Guard and 1 deployment. They kind of forget about the deployment and the crappy air that they breathed in. So that's probably been the biggest role, is the expansion of benefits that veterans has. That creates more for us to talk about.
Okay. So we've talked about a lot over this last hour. Are there any things that you want to cover that we haven't talked about?
Commissioner, I don't think so. I think we checked the boxes. Find a veteran, understand about your benefits, and make sure you got your property tax taken care of. And I think with that, service members will continue to support each other and not look the other way.
Well, Joe, first, I want to thank you for your service, both to our country and for what you do for our citizens every day. This is the best of who we are as local government. So it's a pleasure serving with you. I'm proud to be your colleague. And so for our listeners, I hope that you have learned something new today. And if you have any questions, hopefully we have helped answer them, as well as gave you some good information for any loved one or friends in your life that are going through this journey. This is Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and you have been listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO.